I'm the CEO of AKICept, Matt Hedrick. Thank you for the introduction. We're an emerging renal intervention company, and I'll explain what that means in a moment. We're starting with a strong management team. Myself, I have experience building one of the first nanotechnology-enabled orthopedic companies, which we recently are actually completing an exit to a very large orthopedic company. Dr. Bacchiao is our scientific inventor, and he's a very accomplished nephrologist with a great deal of experience, in AKI and polycystic kidney disease, which I'll talk about more in a moment. And then John Timko is a very experienced commercialization executive in building sales forces in the cardiovascular and renal space. I'll highlight also our scientific advisory board. Because of their excitement in the technology, we've got a past president of the National Kidney Foundation who's literally written several books on acute kidney injury and is certainly an expert in the space. Dr. Bruce Molitoris, American Society of Nephrology past president. Dr. Kroll, past president of a Society of Interventional Radiology, which our lead product, which I'll focus on today, is a interventional radiology product. We also have very strong distributor coverage or interest in covering our products already. So for us, it becomes an opportunity to leverage products through this existing distributor sales force. So what are we doing? We're launching a biopsy device in the very short term. I won't spend a lot of time on it. It is differentiated. We're going to use it for cash flow, right? So fund some of the other technologies, so kind of an old school growth strategy. And what I'll focus on today are a couple of interventional cardiology, interventional catheter products for acute kidney injury, whether that's in transplant, which I'll talk about in a moment, or in the ICU. And then over the long term, we've got some very interesting things for polycystic kidney disease that we can talk about according to your interest. Right now, this growth strategy is already funded. So it's a lean plan. It's not a lot of waste of capital, and we're very capital efficient, probably a little too capital efficient. So we'll talk about what we'd like to do with this, though. We'd like to accelerate this plan, but we're building the company for cash flow and humanitarian and economic impact, which I'll illustrate what we're talking about here. So what happens with hypoperfusion of the kidney is it forms something called acute kidney injury. It happens from trauma, like a car accident. It's a very common case. Heart attack, heart surgery, major surgeries, and transplant situations. But red blood cells aggregate in the capillary beds of the kidneys. They slow down perfusion, which reduces filtration. I mean, your kidneys are a filter. It's like a pool filter. If you clog it, you don't filter your water anymore. Reduces energy exchange, reduces urine output, creatinine clearance, measures of kidney function like glomerular filtration rate all decline. Triggers an inflammatory response, kills the tissue, scar tissue forms, and it never recovers. So you progressively lose kidney function. Depending how much you lose, they'll put you on dialysis, and you never recover that function. If you lose too much, it's fatal. So at the bottom here, you can see a picture of kind of these green capillary structures. You can see with basically red blood cells flowing through the normal capillary perfusion image. And you can see some interesting gene delivery things there, which we can talk about at some point in the future if you're interested. But post this type of injury, you can see these red blood cells are no longer traveling through these capillary beds. So your pool filter's clogged. Your kidneys aren't working anymore. They're impaired to a degree. Right now, there are no treatments for this. So if it happens, you kind of hope it gets better, and if it doesn't, it's just a progressive injury. And what happens? It causes mortality, increases chronic kidney disease, which can lead to dialysis, if you survive. It increases your ICU days, which is very expensive. It increases your hospital days in the hospital outside of the ICU, which is also very expensive. Increases readmissions, and it's just a very expensive situation that's right now untreatable, but we can treat it. In transplant, which hopefully you'll never need one or no one you know will need one, it's very common, and it impairs the recovery of the engrafted kidneys. And right now there's about 5,000 to 6,000 kidneys that are discarded annually in the U.S. which is terrible because about 6,000 people are succumbing to chronic kidney disease waiting for a transplant kidney. We think we can improve the function of those kidneys, and we think we can save about 2,000 of them a year, which each one of those has a high likelihood of being a patient's life. So we think because of the days of stay alone, we can probably justify about a $4,500 ASP, maybe quite a bit higher, because we think we're going to immediately have an impact here, which I'll show you why. But it's a very large market, multiple billions. You know, it's early, so we don't know for sure. But this is a very common problem. It's a global problem. There are no treatments, and everybody has to deal with this issue. So our approach is a device. We go in through the renal vein, deliver a pulse of fluid that clears out the kidneys. If you do this within 24 hours, you can reverse the kidney injury. We've got strong IP, it's a short procedure, interventional radiologists deliver it, and you do it one time. We've got good data in animals and in humans. So we've improved kidney function with serum creatinine. We've reduced the progression to chronic kidney disease. So short and long-term animal data, efficacy, safety, just the types of things you'd expect to see. In human kidneys, we've improved perfusion of impaired kidneys. So that's also what you'd expect to see with this type of a mechanism. And you know, we've got great data sets on this. So we understand the injury, we understand the treatment mechanisms, we've illustrated our treatment effect, and we've had no safety issues in any of these studies, so which is a very important question. So we can perform this procedure safely, we believe. We've got a comprehensive data set for those that are interested. So right now we're preparing to launch our biopsy device for cash flow. We think there's differentiation and a divestiture opportunity there. And we plan to launch transplant in 2026. We plan to launch the ICU indication in 2028. And all that's currently funded. We'd like to accelerate this. Why? Because people are succumbing to this disease, which we think we can treat. And of course, there's an economic opportunity as well. We can accelerate it by pulling some of the device development forward and funding a clinical trial sooner. Right now, we're going to fund it based off organic growth if our sales plans work. So we'd like to move that forward. Currently funded plan looks good, kind of a slow build, organic growth. We redeploy capital to fund the ICU indication. But we could also fund that ICU indication very soon. So that's why we're out potentially seeking strategic partners or incremental capital. And we'll use it to do exactly that, accelerate the final device development for the ICU indication, and in combination with cash flow generated from other sales, we'll perform the clinical trial. So that's what we're trying to do. If anyone out there has an interest in not only saving lives, but potentially opening up a very new market, that there are no treatments for this right now. We think it's a new procedure. We think it's a pretty hot area if this continues to work. Then I'd ask you to contact me at some point throughout this process. Thank you. Any questions? Otherwise, I'll turn it to the next speaker. Thanks, everyone.